This is Principles of Management, and the session is on managing small business startups. Entrepreneurship is the creation of new value. It involves initiating a business venture, organizing the necessary resources, and assuming the associated risks and rewards. It differs from creativity, which is the conceptualization of a new idea. Innovation is taking a new idea and making it commercially viable. And the entrepreneur is the person who does just that. In order to take a new idea and bring it to the market, the entrepreneur needs three things. One is an innovative idea, something that the market is going to value and does not now have. Two are the financial and human resources to get this done, and three is the leadership to accomplish this. And the three critical management skills needed to do this are the ability to organize, finance, and communicate. Recognizing an innovative idea is more of an art than a science. The idea has to be something that the market is going to want and to be able to afford. It has to require a production or service facility that is possible to assemble. It has to generate enough demand for it and for a long enough time for the entrepreneur to be able to pay back the investment needed to create it, and hopefully a return to its investors. To be able to do this requires an exceptional understanding of the external environment and an ability to see what is missing from it. An entrepreneur also has to be able to assemble resources. If an individual is seeking to do this, financial resources can be obtained from bank financing, venture capital, and most often personal savings. If it is a corporation, this is a research and development expense, and depending on its size can be funded from existing operations or from floating additional debt or equity. Human capital also has to be assembled, which means convincing other people that the idea is worth pursuing and articulating the role they will be expected to play. Leadership is an extraordinary quality. Management is a simpler task. Management involves working within existing systems to get something to run well. Leadership is when the person in charge has to convince people that existing systems are no longer working and that a new way of doing something is going to be needed. It requires a vision, a dedication, a commitment to serving customers. Note that I did not say it takes an interest in taking on risks. Entrepreneurs do this only very begrudgingly. They do, however, believe they can manage their way through problems. Entrepreneurs possess several qualities. They have a desire, in general, for autonomy. They can stay focused and positive and persevere for long periods of time. They have high levels of energy. They need to achieve something and to enjoy the influence that affords. They are self-confident and have a high tolerance for ambiguity. What they are not is risk takers. They take risks when they have to, but it is not their preference. One form of entrepreneurship is called social entrepreneurship. Every organization, whether for-profit or not-for-profit, has a purpose, a mission. Social entrepreneurs represent that subset of entrepreneurs who focus on creating social value by providing solutions to social problems. And this is something they do on a for-profit basis. To start a business, an entrepreneur has to begin with an idea that provides a solution to a problem that people will be willing to pay to have solved. This is why people who have an in-depth knowledge of an industry or a profession are in a superior position to become entrepreneurs. They understand their markets and know where there is an unsolved problem that applies to the entire market or an economically sufficient portion of it. The next step is to perform a feasibility study, which is an abbreviated form of a business plan. It is an assessment of whether there is a sufficient market size and interest to offer a product or service, and a quick assessment of whether it is worth doing on an extended financial marketing plan based on that demand. Following from this, the entrepreneur will have to write the business plan, which will detail the market size and strength, the financing, the operations, the marketing, and the human resources that will need to be assembled to address it. With resource needs planned, the entrepreneur will need to organize a business and to give it a legal form. The most common forms are the sole proprietorship, an unincorporated for-profit business owned by an individual, a partnership, which is unincorporated also, but it is an association of two or more people for the same purpose, or a corporation, an artificial entity licensed by the state with the ability to create contracts to own property and to conduct business. Other forms of business ownership include limited liability partnerships and limited liability companies, topics that will be covered in the Legal Environment of Business course. Financing a new business is one of its greatest challenges. Most often, the source of funds for a new business is the entrepreneur's own savings. A typical path is for a person to work in an industry for, on average, 7 years and to save as much money as possible during that time. This becomes the source of capital for the firm. Borrowing from family and friends is also a significant source of capital, followed by borrowing from banks, angel investors, and venture capital firms. Note, though, that venture capital firms typically finance less than 3% of the proposals they receive. There are also alternative entry modes. Business can be started anew, developing products, services, and processes in response to the need the entrepreneur sees, and only replicating existing systems when they will work. If an existing business will address the need the entrepreneur sees and be more profitable than the business is in its current form, buying an existing business is a viable option. A hybrid of these two options is to purchase a franchise, which is a purchase of a proven business model, and it's going to be applied in a new location or market. Once started, hopefully the business will grow, and the growth can be segmented into several stages. It begins with the startup or organizing launching phase, which is followed by a survival phase, where the business has to demonstrate that it is workable. Often a few months or years may go by before the business is actually profitable. This hopefully is followed by a profitable phase aptly called success, and then by a rapid period of expansion and growth, followed by maturity and eventually decline. It would be unwise to count on anything as being a permanent solution. The cycle of adaptation and change is an ongoing one. And this concludes the first section of the course. With the next section, we are going to begin our discussion of managerial planning and goal setting. Good night.